Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
All right, and welcome to the GSMC Football Podcast. This episode is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, and as always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. All right, so here we are. It's Friday, and the Hall of Fame game, as excited as I was terrible. I mean, you saw the title. Hall of Fame game wasn't great. It wasn't. I got excited, and then you realize, oh wait, this is the second and third team O-line playing the entire game. Oh wait, there goes Robert Griffin getting sacked again. Oh wait, Chase Daniel got hit again. I mean, we had a total of 12 sacks in this game, combined from both teams. I mean, come on now. I did set myself up for failure here. Or for disappointment, I should say. But you know what? I'm not mad. Because as bad as that game was, I stuck through it. I watched the entire thing. I mean, literally. That was a mission I tried getting through. Watching that game. Because you know what? RG3 played for a couple of drives. Played pretty much the entire first quarter, I'd say. That was interesting. That was fun to watch. But it's just the game itself. It's you can't just watch RG3 because there's 21 other players on the field. And you realize that these are third string guys, second string guys, and it's just not working out. It was literally, like I say, a mission to get through this game. I mean, there's like 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Or about 3 or 4, I should say. About 4 minutes left in the fourth. And by this time, you're playing the single-digit players. The guys who are going to get cut after tomorrow. And I'm trying my hardest not to just turn this game off and put on a movie or a baseball game or whatever. And you know what? That might sound like it's nothing, but it was difficult. And I did stick through the entire game. Saw Lamar Jackson take the knee. Soon as it hit zeros, I was out of there. As much as I love football, man, the Hall of Fame game is terrible. Absolutely terrible. But either way, we got through it. I got through it. It's like ripping the Band-Aid off. The wound has been healed, okay? We had fresh wound opened up after the Super Bowl. It's been healing from the end of February till about now. Either way, we had to rip the Band-Aid off yesterday. It did hurt, but we're ready to go now. Now we get the real preseason games next Thursday. So we'll be talking about the Hall of Fame game for the first segment. Second segment, you got Urban Meyer. He released a statement, so we'll be talking about that. Third segment, we're going to get back into this whole helmet rule thing because Andrew Sendejo has given me another reason to talk about it. Viking safety there. And then for the fourth segment, we will be talking about anything else going on in the world of football. So that's how today's show is going to go. But like I said, getting back to the Hall of Fame game. So I finish recording my podcast and all that. Make sure it gets uploaded for all you guys to listen to. So then I get home. I get home about 3:30, 4 o'clock Pacific time. I'm playing a couple quick games of Madden. Knocking out my franchise mode since my team in real life stinks. And that's the only way I could win. So I'm doing that. I'm checking the time, making sure that I don't miss any of the Hall of Fame game. Now that I'm saying this out loud, it sounds pretty ridiculous that I got so excited for this preseason game. But yeah, it's 5 o'clock. I'm like, oh, game's about to start. I turn it on. And then on their first drive for the Bears, Chase Daniel ends up throwing a pick. I realize, yeah, this game's not going to be great at all. The game was boring. It was. Like I said. I tried, but it was absolutely boring. But I think the good part about the game and me being able to watch it throughout was the fact that football's back. I mean, as bad as a football game will get, I will still watch it. Why? Because it's football. And I've never really been a big football player. I played a couple years and all that. But for some reason, the game itself just keeps you attracted to it. Keeps you there. Even with all the drama that goes on in the league, even with the NFL getting in their way constantly, I don't understand what is so great about this game of football. And that might be something that needs to be investigated. Why are people just so absorbed to the game of football? I mean, like I said, Tyler Bray played the majority of the game at quarterback for the Bears. And that didn't get me to leave the game. And it wasn't even one where like I have to watch the game and sit through it because I have to talk about it the next day. I mean, the only real talking points from that game were RG3 and Lamar Jackson. All I had to do was watch Lamar Jackson's drives and RG3 for the first quarter and a half or however long he played, I forget. But no, I wanted to sit through it, and I hope you did too. I hope you didn't cheat the game. But either way, like I said, game was boring. It was terrible. I mean, 12 total sacks combined from both teams. But we did have a winner and we did have a loser. Have we ever had a Hall of Fame game ended in tie? I mean, can you imagine? You're watching Hall of Fame game. The third stringers are in. It's 10-10. And both teams' players are just so bad to the point where there's no winner and it ends up in a tie. I mean, that'd be ridiculous. And I was surprised. I mean, yesterday we didn't have too many hot takes as far as, they need to shorten the preseason and all that. Look at this. For those of you that think that, the preseason isn't about you. The preseason is not about the fans. If you don't like the preseason and you want it shortened, there's a good way to do that. You can shorten it by not watching the first game, not watching the second game, or the fourth game. You can watch the third game because the starters are playing. That's how you shorten the preseason. If you don't like how the games are and all that, then don't watch. Okay? Fans already complain about enough. Preseason is fine the way it is. Like I said, it's not about the fans. It's about the guys who are trying to develop and make the team. If you want to shorten it so bad, like I said, don't watch the first game, don't watch the second, and don't watch the fourth. Third game you can watch because that's when your starters are going to be playing. But other than that, let's keep quiet and let the NFL go about their business as far as the preseason goes. No one wants to hear you complain about how boring it is or how there's too many games. Literally, no one wants to hear that. So, either watch or don't. It's up to you. Alright, but let's get into the game itself. So like I said, we had the Ravens beating the Bears yesterday 17-16. I mean, wins, losses don't mean a thing in preseason, but of course, we got to have some. So looking at Chicago, like I said, Tyler Bray played the majority of the game at quarterback for Chicago. Completed 18 out of his 34 passes, 181 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, pretty decent for a preseason game. I mean, Tyler Bray, I'm not sure in Chicago whether or not they're going to be having a little backup quarterback competition between him and Chase Daniel, but either way, Bray looked all right. Chase Daniel looked as if he was a guy who's played 10 years, has only thrown 78 total passes over his career. I mean, can you believe that? The guy's made a little over $24 million in 10 years, and he's only thrown the ball 78 times over his career. And the majority of those passes came in 2013, 2014. 2013, he started one game through 38 passes. 2014, he started one game through 28. Let's see, other than 2013, 2014, the amount of combined passes he's thrown in, I'd say, the 8 seasons that he's played, other than, like I said, those 2 years, he's thrown 8, 9, 11, 13 passes. And I'd say that's probably in 7 years. I think this is his 10th, so yeah, that'd make it 7 years since he's played 9 before this current year. I mean, that is the dream right there. My dream has always been to just, kick back, talk sports, be a good journalist and all that. I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be an architect. And I didn't want to do any of those hard jobs. I wanted to watch sports and talk about it for a living. But these backup quarterbacks have a job much better than the one I want. These backup quarterbacks, talking about Chase Daniel, gets to sit around for 10 seasons, barely throw a pass, barely get in the game, but make millions on top of millions of dollars. By the time his contract's up in Chicago, I'm assuming, let me see if I could actually find Chase Daniel's total exact earnings over his career. I mean, the guy, I'm telling you, the backup quarterback job is the best in the world. It is. I mean, I look up to guys like Matt Moore. Barely play. And you get paid. So let's see, looking at Chase Daniel. He's 31, 9 years total experience. I think this is his 10th year. His current deal with the Bears is 2 years, $10 million. 7 of it is total guaranteed. I mean, he's going to be on the roster this season. Let me see if I can get his complete earnings, or do we not have that on here? So his complete earnings since 2009, he's made a total of $24.3 million. And again, has only thrown 78 passes. By the time his contract is up with the Bears, he will have made $34.3 million over the course of his NFL career. I mean, that's my hero right there, Chase Daniel. But either way, like I said, 8 completions out of 16 attempts, 53 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. Benny Cunningham got the majority of carries actually he got 6 carries, Ryan Nail got 7, but Cunningham did the most of them, 6 carries, 37 yards. And then you got 7th round pick out of Georgia, Javon Wims for Chicago, catching 7 passes for 89 yards there. For the Ravens, obviously the story there was Robert Griffin and Lamar Jackson. Robert Griffin started the game. I mean, it's only one game, so I'm not going to really get too hyped, but RG3 did move around pretty well, got outside the pocket pretty well. Didn't look like he lost a step or anything like that, and I mean, he still got a rocket of an arm. So if RG3 continues to play well over the preseason, I mean, someone's might just have to give him a chance as being their starting quarterback. The guy looked pretty good. And as for Lamar Jackson, he played the entire second half. Completed 4 out of his 10 passes, 33 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, got sacked 3 times, took off with the ball 8 times, ran for 25 yards. Lamar Jackson, it was pretty clear that he's not ready to be a starter in this league, but you could see there was talent there. He does have the tools. All he needs is a year or two of development. I think the plan should be you get rid of Flacco after this season. Next year, heading into training camp, you have RG3 and Lamar Jackson compete for the starting job. Chances are RG3 wins that. If RG3 looks good, then like I said, you start him. And until he doesn't, you keep Lamar Jackson developing. I think that's what they need to do. But either way, like I said, I mean, Lamar Jackson didn't look great, but you could see there's some talent there, and there are tools capable where if he develops the right way, he will become a solid starting quarterback in this league. Like, the guy can become a superstar. So we'll see. But either way, Hall of Fame game concludes 17-16. Like I said, Ravens taking the win there. Wasn't great, but Hayden Hurst was out there, looked pretty decent, caught 3 passes, 14 yards and a touchdown from Lamar Jackson. So we'll see how the rest of the preseason shakes up. But like I said, RG3 looked pretty good yesterday, so good on him. We're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be heading back over to that Urban Meyer situation, so stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Are you looking for help for your fantasy football team? Check out the GSMC Fantasy Football Podcast. Get today's best advice on who to start, who to sit, even who you should draft. From sleeper picks to red-hot lineups, they got it all covered for you. That's gsmcpodcast.com/fantasy-football-podcast. We'll cover traditional leagues, dynasty, PPR, even IDP leagues. When you need fantasy help, there's just one show to hit up. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. Spent that first segment talking about the dreadful Hall of Fame game that was. I came into it way too overhyped. I mean, the amount of disappointment because of how boring it was just enormous. But that's fine. I get excited over football games. Sue me. Oh well. I mean, who doesn't get excited for Chase Daniel versus RG3 and Lamar Jackson versus third string guys who are probably going to end up getting cut? I mean, come on. Who doesn't? Right? Benny Cunningham looked pretty good yesterday. Though I will say running the ball for the Bears. He's with the Rams for a tiny bit. Benny Cunningham, he's one guy who had a decent little run for a few weeks for your fantasy team and has made, I guess, pretty much established a career because of that. I mean, that's what Christine Michael has done. I mean, I know there's a handful of people out there who have drafted Christine Michael or picked him up off the waiver wire because this was supposed to be his week or this was supposed to be his year. I mean, the guy's coming into, his sixth year in the NFL? He's barely even ran the ball. I mean, I'm telling you, man, a lot of these NFL players do not play one snap, but somehow come away making double digits in the millions. I mean, those are the real businessmen of the world. The Chase Daniels, the Matt Moores, the Benny Cunninghams, the Christine Michaels, not playing at all, but either way, still in the league years later. And I mean, Chase Daniel had it figured out. Coming into the league, I'm a backup quarterback. That's my role. I'm going to accept that. That's how you do it. People are going to say, oh, no, you got to fight for your spot. You got to fight to be a starter. No. Not in the NFL. You fight to last. Because the longer you last, the more money you make, my friend. Chase Daniel got that figured out. But I don't know, man. Hall of Fame game, 17-16. 3 field goals in the fourth by Chicago. 1 touchdown in the third by Baltimore. No points scored in the second quarter. First quarter did end 10-7. Wasn't exactly your game of the year. And like I said, I don't think we've ever had a fun to watch Hall of Fame game. Usually it's all about the third preseason game because that's when the starters play the majority of the first half. But until then, and you know what? I'm going to get just as excited for next Thursday's preseason games than I was for this one too. I mean, you can watch a bunch of different games there. But either way, we move on from that. And we move on to the problem that is going on over at Ohio State. We talked about it yesterday for the first segment. Now we talk about it some more because Urban Meyer released a statement. I'm not going to read the entire statement because it's way too long. Well, not even too long, but there's just a point where it'd take too much of the time of this segment, so I wouldn't get my thoughts in. But either way, I mean, the majority of his statement is basically talking about how the incident in 2015, he did report it to his higher-ups. It's been reported the last couple of days that he didn't. Said he had no knowledge about it and didn't report it, but he claims in his statement that he did. And when he was denying all the stuff at the Big Ten Media Day on July 24th, as far as his knowledge, as far as him finding out the day before what's-his-face got fired, Zach Smith. I mean, he says that he made a mistake there, and he regrets it, but he did report all the incidents to his higher-ups at each time they came up. And he also states that he knows more questions need to be answered and all that. He says he will do that, but at the right time in a public forum. So, I mean, we probably won't hear from Meyer within the next couple of weeks, I'd say. And then he also said to end his statement, he says, I ask that you continue to support the incredible coaches and student athletes in our program, and I look forward to rejoining them soon. It's a pretty confident sentence right there to end your statement. Looks forward to rejoining the team soon. And I'm assuming that if Urban Meyer, each time an incident came up, reported it to his higher-ups, then I'm assuming they're going to keep him on. I mean, of course, they'll forget the fact that he lied at the media day about knowing about it and all that. And it seems that he didn't lie to his higher-ups, he lied to the media. And that's just one point where, I mean, how much does a team value the media, really? Because if Urban Meyer lied to the media, but his higher-ups knew about it, could they really care about what the media knows and what they don't? I mean, of course, if Urban Meyer would have said, yeah, I knew about it and all that, we've been handling it, I've been reporting it to my higher-ups, that media day, then I'm sure maybe this story doesn't get as big as it is. But, of course, that never happened. And the media always has the power to control how big or how small a story is. But there's the whole thing of Okay, yeah, we had the 2015 statement or incident happen. It was reported. Why do Ohio State and Urban Meyer keep him on the staff for so long? Why is it just now he's getting fired? I mean, if this guy's had a consistent, I don't know if consistent, has had a consistent amount of incidents as far as domestic abuse. I mean, I figure you got to get rid of him after the second or third incident. I mean, come on now. But they chose to keep him on, and I think that's one of the problems too here. But also, it's like an ethical, moral type of thing, but it's just the point, what does a team value more? I mean, if Meyer reported it to his higher-ups and he followed protocol, that's not really a means to fire him. But the fact that Ohio State and Meyer kept Zach Smith on their staff for so long, I think, is a bit of a problem. I get that his grandfather was Meyer's mentor and all that, and he's big in the Ohio community and all that. But that stuff all goes out the window when stuff like this comes up. I could care less what you've done for whatever state football program or whatever. Like I said, that's all out the window once domestic abuse is being brought up and all that. If Meyer was trying to do Zach Smith a favor because of what his grandfather did for Meyer, I mean, I get that, but it was the wrong thing to do. And when I say I get that, I mean, you're always going to look out for people close to you, but there's a point where either it's right or wrong, and that was wrong. I think Zach Smith probably should have been fired from the staff a long time ago. And if they did that, this would have never came up. This wouldn't have been as big as it was, and Urban Meyer wouldn't have questions about his job. You got Urban Meyer releasing the statement, people calling him liars and all that. Chances are you're just like me and you have no clue what's going on. So, I mean, let's pump the brakes as far as saying who's right and who's wrong. Because in reality, you don't know a thing. I mean, you got to let the investigation play out and see what facts actually come out. But I'm not going to go and say someone's a liar, someone's not, because I don't live at Ohio State. I'm not amongst these guys. I'm out here in Sacramento. I'm just listening to what's being reported. But like I said, I mean, investigation's going on right now. And I'd say with this statement, Meyer probably should have released it a couple of days ago when this story just got fresh. I mean, this is one where he claims he did know about it. He did report it. The only really fault he's at is as far as the media day. So, I'm curious to see how this ends up, man. It's not going to be a good look if Ohio State ends up keeping Meyer. No matter what. Even if he did know and he did bring it up and report it, I mean, the story's already got out to its front foot. People already have made up their minds as far as who's right and who's wrong. And that is a bit of a problem here. Zach Smith, obviously not a great guy at all. He's the one who should be in the wrong here the most and the one who's got the most of the spotlight on him because he's the one who committed these terrible things. But, I mean, we're at a point where if you're not the biggest name, you're not the biggest part of the story, no matter what your impact was on the story. So, like I said, people already got their names made up. I mean, we got to wait for the investigation to happen to see what exactly happened and what facts come out. If Meyer knew about it and didn't report it, then you fire him. If he did know about it and did report it, then I don't think you can. Again, there is the problem of keeping Zach Smith on the staff for so long, but that's just one where, I mean, you can't really get rid of a guy for doing that, I'd say. I mean, you can. It'd be the right thing to do, but I just don't see Ohio State doing that. So it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I mean, not really great for Ohio State considering that they just started up. They're going to be starting up training camp this upcoming week. Their little training camp before the season starts. I mean, this could just end up being a one where Urban Meyer gets suspended for a bit, comes back, and everyone moves on with their lives like everyone does with every story that comes out like this. I mean, we'll see what ends up happening. But of course, Urban Meyer released his statement. Now we go from here. So we're going to wrap it up here. Next up, we're going to be talking about the helmet rule. A lot of talk about it going on during the game. Andrew Sendejo's got some thoughts as far as what football should be. So we're going to wrap up this Urban Meyer segment again. If he did report it to his higher-ups and did follow protocol, I don't think you could fire the guy. I just think like the biggest problem here with Urban Meyer, it seems, was that he acted like he had no clue what was going on at the media day. So at the media day, he was asked about it and basically claimed that he didn't know about all this going on till the day before they fired him. Obviously, that wasn't the case. Obviously, he knew about it for years. So there's the point. You fire him for lying to the media. Do you fire him for keeping him on the staff, or do you keep him on as the head coach because he did report to his higher-ups. That's something that Ohio State's got to deal with. So, like I said, we'll wrap it up here. Next up, we'll be talking about the hit rule, the helmet rule, I should say. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We spent that first segment talking about the Hall of Fame game. I mean, it was as terrible as it could have gotten. I mean, it was boring. Sacks. RG3 looked good. Lamar Jackson showed that he does have talent, but needs it to be developed. Chase Daniel, I learned that he's been in the league for 10 years and he's made $24.3 million. I'm jealous. And Benny Cunningham runs the ball pretty well as far as for being in a Hall of Fame game. Those are my takeaways from that game. All right. But that second segue, we moved on to the whole Urban Meyer situation, talked about his statement, gave my thoughts on it now a day later. And for this third segment, we talk about the controversial helmet rule. We've been talking about it the last couple of days, but now we get to talk about it because we've seen it play out in a game. And I'm thinking that this isn't really a good rule, and it's one that's going to cause a lot of problems this season. I mean, of course, we've had bad penalty calls, bad foul calls, and all that. But there's a point where this one is going to be causing a lot of problems because it's more so a judgment call, and it's one where sometimes the defensive player can't really change where he's hitting the guy because the other guy already made sudden movement, and it's already a bang-bang type play. So we got Vikings safety Andrew Sendejo showed up to practice today with the message on his hat, "Make football violent again." I mean, people were talking about the hat being controversial. I think I understand why it's controversial, given that there's some other guy with a hat with a similar message, except the words are a bit different. But either way, I mean, I'm with Andrew Sendejo here. Let's make football again. People are going to see the word violent and think, wow, why would you want to make it violent? Football's always been violent. I don't know why people don't understand that. Like, football is not basketball, it's not soccer, and it's not baseball. Those are non-violent games. Football is violent. And that's just the way it is. You can't change the game of football. Of course, if you want to make it safer, sure. But the premises of the game is one that is violent. I don't even know if I used that word right. But either way, you get the point I'm trying to make here. I mean, it's a bit ridiculous. I'm cool with the defensive receiver rule. I'm cool with not hitting a quarterback below the knees. But this one where you can't really hit him with the face mask is one where on surface, sure, yeah, you don't want your players leading in with their helmet, face mask, and all that. But like I said, there's times where it's a bang-bang play. How can you blame or penalize a defensive player for going into leading in with, like, let's say this, a defensive player is leading in with the shoulder, okay? Leading in to hit a player with the shoulder. The offensive player with the ball sees that and last second moves a certain way to where even though the defense player wanted to hit him with his shoulder first, he ends up hitting him with the helmet. Are you going to call that a flag? I think they are. It seems like it's going to be a no tolerance type of rule here. And, I mean, it's going to water the game down a bunch. It's a 15-yard penalty also. We're literally going to see receivers going down the middle of the field. They're going to get tackled. You're going to think, oh, just another play, whatever. And then you're going to see the yellow flag come out, and it's going to be an added 15 yards. You're going to love it when the opposing team gets penalized for it, but you're going to hate it when your team gets penalized for it. And I'm telling you, man, it is going to cause a lot of problems. And I'm telling you, there's going to be a penalty called where it's late in the game, and it's going to be an important game, and it's going to affect the outcome of the game. I really hope that after watching the rule take place yesterday, that the NFL looks at it and sees, you know what, this is going to be one where it's going to be an epidemic type of thing where it's all around, it's all over the place. I hope they tell the refs that, yeah, we told you to do this rule, but don't be as strict about it. If it's a bang-bang play, you let it go. That's what it needs to be. Because the rule itself, I get it. Don't hit with the face mask. But there's a point where, like I said, there's bang-bang plays, and defensive players can't really change the way they hit. So, we'll see what ends up happening with the rule. I'm with Andrew Sendejo, Viking safety. Make football violent again. I don't need concussions and all that, but I don't need to be watching two-hand touch football either. People want to make the game safer, and that's cool, but there's a point where you can't take the hitting and violence out of football. That's just part of the game. People say, oh, well, our children and all are getting hurt. Don't play your kids in football then. Do not let them play football. I mean, getting hurt is just part of the game. I mean, I understand that you're trying to make it better for everyone as far as safer, but there's a point where it's a problem, and I'd say if you're so worried about your kid getting hurt during football, don't let them play. Have them play soccer, have them play basketball, have them play baseball. At least with them playing those sports, if they get really good, they'll make a whole lot more money than they would playing in the NFL. Don't try and change the game because you don't want your kid to get hurt and all that. It's going to happen. That's the way of life. People get hurt. Football, they've already done enough to try and change the rules and make it safer. Now it's a point where if you don't like it, go play something else. I mean, it's ridiculous. I can't stand the NFL. I hate the fact that I love watching the game of football itself so much to the point where I got to watch the NFL. I guess it's just the way it goes, huh? Give and take type of thing. But like I said, it's going to cause a lot of problems this season. I mean, I'm already ready for the controversy. And I can't wait for what dumb rule the NFL passes next season, too. It seems like they try to one-up themselves every single year. It's like I said, talked about it yesterday. NFL constantly getting in their own way. It's honestly very impressive. I mean, how can you make so much money, have one of the most popular games in the country, and there's always just bad publicity coming out about your league? I mean, who is, like I said yesterday, who is the PR firm that works for the NFL? I just don't get it at all. And I was looking around at news, and I saw an ESPN article with the headline that Mike Zimmer says Anthony Barr isn't going anywhere, meaning he's not available for a trade. In what world is Anthony Barr up for on the trade block for the Vikings? I mean, first round pick 2014, three-time Pro Bowl selection. I don't understand how this is even a question. Anthony Barr being up for trade. The Vikings would be absolutely dumb to trade Anthony Barr. Mike Zimmer says that that's not true and the report was completely false. So, I mean, that's good. But like I said, I saw this and I was like, wait, why is this even coming up? And that's what stinks. I mean, I'm assuming that the report is false, given that it makes absolutely no sense to trade Anthony Barr. So if you're a reporter, like, how do you come up with this stuff? I mean, unless you know it's factual, how do you even report something like that? I can't stand the gotcha type of journalists or the headline-making type of journalists where there's no substance to what they're reporting. It's just they know it's going to get clicks. That's lazy, and if you do that, then you're part of the problem as far as journalism right now. Let me say that. Well, like I said, I mean, the Vikings trading Anthony Barr would be maybe the dumbest move in their franchise history. Yeah, it really would be. Well, anyway, speaking of the Vikings, you got Randy Moss, who's going to be heading into the Hall of Fame this weekend. Talking about what quarterbacks he'd like to have played with. Joe Montana's one. I mean, that's a pretty easy answer, I guess. I mean, I feel like all receivers say they would have liked to play with Joe Montana. And then you brought up Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco's got an arm, so I see it, but I don't know. I would have said Peyton Manning, maybe Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, Brett Favre, but Joe Flacco, I guess, Randy, I guess. But that's all I got to say about that. Wanted to spend this segment as far as talking about the helmet rule and all that. So thanks for listening to this segment. Next up, we will be back and talking about anything else going on in the world of football. So stay tuned. And like I said, I will be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. So far today, we've talked about how brutal the Hall of Fame game was. I came in so excited and just came away like, I finally got through that game. It's difficult because, I mean, the Hall of Fame game, like, even the commentators are bored. I mean, we had Ray Lewis talking for about 30 minutes. Then they had to talk to every other Hall of Famer. And I was curious, too, to see what the Terrell Owens highlights were going to look like when they were showing the Hall of Fame montage and all that. Terrell Owens got some pretty good highlights in there, and he got, I think, a good, decent amount. I'm curious to see how the NFL, or the Hall of Fame, I should say, handles this whole thing. I mean, tomorrow is tonight the induction ceremony, or is it tomorrow? I'd have to double-check that, but either way, I mean, I wish Terrell Owens was televised. That'd be great. I'm sure someone's going to have to. Like I said, I don't know if it is or not for sure, but if it's not, someone's going to have to record that speech. So, yeah, Hall of Fame game, not great, but either way, football has come back, and we should all be excited. I will be just as excited as I was for yesterday's game, for next Thursday's games, when we have all the other teams playing their first preseason matchups. Second segment, we headed back over to that Urban Meyer situation. He released a statement saying that in 2015 he did report the incident. His biggest problem was not being truthful with the media on July 24th, that Big Ten Media Day, and he says he looks forward to rejoining the team. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Third segment, we talked about that terrible helmet rule. Andrew Sandehal says to make football violent again. The Vikings aren't trading Anthony Barr. And Randy Moss says he would have liked to play with Joe Flacco. That's what that third segment was about. So now for this fourth segment, we talk about anything else going on in the world of football. And Nike says that they did not renew their contract with Jameis Winston. I mean, this is obvious here. Jameis Winston coming into the league, has he shown you that he's going to be a great quarterback? Not really. Shown he's got the tools to become a great quarterback. Hasn't necessarily taken those steps to become one, though. I mean, the dude is in the news, it seems, as far as doing something idiotic and dumb every other couple of months. I mean, it's honestly ridiculous. Someone with so much talent getting in their own way. You hate to see it. But as far as who Jameis Winston could be signing with in the future, we don't know. Let's see. They got time to think about it and all that, but Jameis Winston's on, like, he's dug himself a pretty decent-sized hole. When your endorsements are starting to say, yeah, we're not going to be renewing our contract with you, then there's an actual problem. I don't think people realize how big endorsements, like how much of an influence Nike and Adidas and all those have an influence on what goes on as far as the leagues that are played in the professional sense. I mean, Nike could have a huge influence to the point where they tell your favorite player, come play here in free agency, not there, and your favorite player will listen to that. I don't think people realize that. Like Nike, whenever players go to LA, I mean, if they're endorsed by Adidas or Nike or whatever, you know that those executives are telling them, we'll give you more money if you go here. That's how it works out. Like I said, I don't think people realize how big these endorsers have an influence. But either way, wanted to bring that up. Like I said, Jameis Winston, he's coming from the bottom up here. And he did dig himself that hole to the bottom. But either way, we'll see if he comes out of it a better man and the future quarterback of the Bucs, or he could just be, off the team after this season. Like I say, man, RG3 could be a free agent. Will be a free agent next season. He'll be available. Joe Flacco most likely will be available. There's going to be some decent quarterbacks who, if you're not looking to completely rebuild, you could sneak them in there and hope it works out. I'm sure the Bucs are thinking of that, so we'll see. Julian Edelman says he doesn't have his football legs yet. He's still recovering from that ACL injury. I mean, he's got even more time to be ready given that he's suspended for 4 games this season because of PEDs. And one thing we haven't talked about, and it happened a few days ago, was Tom Brady was taking questions after training camp practice and ended up walking off because a reporter asked him if he thinks there's any link to Alex Guerrero and Julian Edelman's PED suspension. I get why Brady walked off, but I don't hate the reporter for asking that question because it's something that we were all thinking. Don't act like you weren't. The only way you weren't is if you were a Patriots fan. Because, I mean, it's been known a lot of these players are going to get their treatment for their injuries and all that over there at the TB12 Center where Alex Guerrero is the head guy out there. I mean, as soon as I saw Julian Edelman suspended for PEDs, I thought, TB12 Center maybe? The journalist just asked the question that we were all thinking. But of course, he's going to get crushed for it because it's Tom Brady walking off. And I don't understand why Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and all these guys can act however they want with the media. But Terrell Owens has got to wait 3 years to get in the Hall of Fame because of how he acted. That doesn't make any sense to me. But, I mean, that's just the way it goes, I guess. But, I mean, the Patriots are going to need Edelman back, and they're going to need him back at 100% because you know what? Those receivers are terrible. I mean, you got Chris Hogan, Malcolm Mitchell, who has not even really played over his... he's coming into his 3rd year, has barely even played. Cordero Patterson, who's been a special teams guy his entire career. And they did recently sign Eric Decker. Eric Decker, I mean, he's past his prime. And I'm not really sure what I expect him to do with this Patriots team. Do I expect his career to be revived? No. But, I mean, of course, it is the Patriots. And it seems like he could possibly make his way back to becoming a decent receiver. Let's see, this last season with Tennessee, he started only 8 games, had 54 receptions, 563 yards, 1 touchdown. His 3 seasons with New York, his first season, he had 74 receptions, 962 yards, 5 touchdowns. 2015, 80 receptions, 1,000 yards. And 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. 2016, he was hurt, only 9 receptions. Let's see, 194 yards, 2 touchdowns in 3 games. And like I said, with Tennessee, couldn't really get it going there. I mean, as good as Eric Decker was, I think his best years are behind him. But if there's anyone to revive his career, at least make him look good for at least one season, it's Tom Brady. Well, as far as Edelman goes, he needs to hurry up, get ready, and be ready. Because as soon as he's back, he's going to have to be the number one guy. And of course, we talk about the fact that the Patriots receivers are so terrible, but we forget that Rob Gronkowski still plays for that team. As long as Rob Gronkowski's healthy, Brady can make every pass to him, and that offense would still be dangerous. So, we'll see how that receiving corps looks going forward. Like I said, Brady's going to make them look a little bit better than what they actually are. But, like I said, we'll see what ends up happening. So, I don't think there's much else going on. Let's see. I see that next Hall of Fame class, guys that are going to be eligible: Tony Gonzalez, Ed Reed, Champ Bailey. I've never really looked too much into Ed Reed's stats, but I figure the way that he played and what I've seen from him over his career, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer, and Tony Gonzalez, I'd say too. Champ Bailey, I'm not so sure, but I'd say Champ Bailey is a Hall of Famer. Let me see who else is eligible for the 2019 class, unless those are just the 3 biggest names right there. Let's see. So we got Champ Bailey, who's eligible. Tony Gonzalez, Ed Reed, like I said. Steve Atwater, Rondé Barber. I don't think either of the Barber twins are going to become Hall of Famers. Tony Baselli. Isaac Bruce will be up for it again. Guys like Alan Faneca. I mean, I figure that maybe Isaac Bruce gets in next season. Edgerrin James, I've never thought of him as far as being a Hall of Fame running back. Let's see. Ty Law. He was very good for the Patriots. It might be tough for him to get in. But either way, we'll see what ends up happening as far as the next class. Hopefully everyone ends up showing up to the ceremony. And like I said, I don't hate Terrell Owens for not showing up to his this weekend. But that's all I got to say about that. We're going to wrap it up here. Today we talked Hall of Fame game, Urban Meyer, the helmet rule, and then for this segment talked about anything else going on in the world of football. So thanks for listening. As always, I am your host, Jesse Tapia. The GSMC Football Podcast will be back on Monday, so stay tuned, and I will talk to you guys later.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.